Welcome back to the South End Zone. You see Chad. My name's Tyler. Week 2 preview. Let's get it, baby.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Our intent was to eat. Our intent was to come eat and be hungry.
We're taking receipts, and we'll see you at the national championship.
That's right, baby. Taking receipts. First receipt is we are ranked ahead of Georgia for the first time in the history of this show.
It is true.
The number 3 LSU Tigers, the number 4 Georgia Bulldogs. Get used to it, Tyler.
I'll get used to it. But before I get used to that, I want to remind everybody to like, share, comment, subscribe. We have appreciated all of the viewership over the past couple of weeks on all the videos. We have appreciated all the comments, nice and not so nice. We don't care. We just like everybody to come by to hang out. But yes, you are ranked ahead of us. Congratulations. We'll see how long that lasts. As long as Jalen Carter was holding Jaden Daniels up in that state championship game. Anyway,
I didn't spit on anybody in that game. But look, I will say this. I think we're safe in it surviving at least this weekend.
Yes. I think you can honestly say that.
Yeah. Our 2 opponents are not going to change their rankings, barring some crazy disaster on either of our parts.
Yes. This did start as I am a Georgia fan. Chad is an LSU fan and alumni. And we, the Georgia Bulldogs, have Austin P at home. Yay, whoop-de-doo. I hope we get it done, look good as against Marshall, and kind of work through all the things we need to work through before we play Tennessee next week. Chad, you got La Tech, the Fighting Terry Bradshaws, right?
Yeah, something like that. What's funny is we've got Tim Rattay, former Louisiana Tech quarterback, playing or coaching quarterbacks at LSU, and we have former Louisiana Tech defensive coordinator Kyle Williams, former NFL stud defensive tackle Kyle Williams, coaching our D-line now. So it's a little bit of a different setup now. But, yeah, Louisiana Tech comes in 37.5-point dogs. LSU should take care of business. It's going to be fun for both of our teams, I think, to watch, right? Mm-hmm. Some of those guys who we've been waiting to see get a little bit more of a taste of playing time. You got to see a little bit of that when you guys played Marshall, because you don't like to play anybody. No, I'm just joking. I played Clemson first game last year too, so I can't throw shade. But no, like LSU really, it was like we're only playing like our top 30 guys against Clemson because we're getting out of there with a dub come hell or high water. So this will be a fun opportunity. Also, you get to correct a lot of things that you didn't like from week 1. The biggest improvement, right? Week 1 to week 2. So excited about seeing that. But let's get into some more interesting games, because these will be fun to watch for like the depth of our 2 teams. But there's some really good games coming up. Even if they're not super high profile, there's still some good matchups.
I definitely agree. It was funny. I'm like, when you look at like the top 25, a lot of people are playing, cupcakes just like you and me. However, when you really look at the board, there's some great games coming up this weekend, and we're going to jump right into it, starting with number 11, Illinois, going down to Duke, a quarterback matchup. And I think that's going to be the situation with a lot of the games that Chad and I are going to talk about for this upcoming weekend. Luke Altmaier, Brett Bielema's guy, lives and dies by Luke Altmaier. Good quarterback, one of the reasons that Illinois is ranked where they are. He threw for 217, 3 tuds last game, and both of these teams played nobody last week. So you always have to take that when you have the cupcake first, and then you go into your first real game. It's like, what can we actually expect? We'll have to see. Right. Illinois is a very balanced team, it seems. They went for 209 on the ground total with all of their backs, as well as Altmaier moving around. The biggest thing for Duke in this game is Darian Mensah, the transfer from Tulane, one of the highest paid NIL guys.
Yeah, he's $4 million a year, or $4 million for this year.
Worth like $8 million through the next 2 years.
That's more than Bryce Underwood,
right? And that's absurd. But this could be a great game. It's going to be down there in Durham. Thing of note from last game, Duke had a white boy go for 5 catches and 117. through the air. So that was kind of dope. Shout out Cooper. Can't say your last name, buddy. Sorry.
I think if you're a white receiver who does anything, you have to have Cooper either as your first or last.
That's so facts. It's just like we're just
I
certified
will say this,
baller.
going back to last year though, with this Illinois team, like one of the things that jumped out at me, they were 5-1 in one possession games last year. Games 8 points or less. That's one of those things. Remember, we've talked about this before, where there's always this assumption that like whatever a team did last year, if they keep a lot of guys and maybe, you just look at the things that, well, if they had done this better, kind of like the way Dabo Sweeney was talking about our game, was like, well, if we had done this, we'd have scored, and we had done this, we scored. Like, yeah, but you didn't. And you left out all the things where if something had gone against you, you'd have lost by 3 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns. So like, you can't just look at everything through that rose-colored glasses. And when you go 5-1 in one possession games, there's some potential for regression to the mean. And so if you aren't extending that margin to where you're not in that many close one possession comes down to who has the ball the last games, then you run the risk of, what if they go 3-3 in one possession games this year? Right. And now all of a sudden you're not looking at playing in the bowl game that they played in, because then you're going to have to play against some of the bigger teams in the Big Ten, and it might not be a one possession game.
True. I think that Illinois brings that. This is one of those, like, as teams have kind of forged their identity over the years, it's like I feel like Illinois is like one of those teams that like sticks to like the Big Ten defense, where they're very stingy and they're not going to let you move the ball on them without working for it, type of deal. And Mensa very good, played very well last week. They both once again played nobody, so it's going to be interesting to see. I think that Illinois could just go down there and beat them in a very close game. The line is what it is, only 2.5, because there's a lot left to be
That's
seen.
why I brought that stat up, is because I think that if there is that chance for a regression to the mean, and maybe they don't have that lucky rabbit's foot this year where they find a way to win those close games, it could go the other way. But one thing about Bielema, like even when he was at Arkansas, he had that same sort of and wasn't he at Wisconsin before that?
I believe
so,
like an assistant. No,
he was the head coach for a minute. I think took over for Barry Alvarez for a minute. But anyway, that was kind of their identity then too. It's just the Brett Bielema identity is like ugly it up, make it tough, make it just a tough game for you to win. You're not going to win an easy game.
And this is if you want to, how much value you want to put on bowl games, this is the Illinois team that went and beat South Carolina straight up.
That's right.
So I like Illinois here. I really, even on the road, I think they, from a top to bottom, they're more complete on both sides of the ball, and they have a very mixed offensive attack on the ground and through the air. So I like them here. Moving right along, Mr. Chad, we got a taste of these guys last week. Baylor at number 17, SMU favored -2.5. I'm going to let you give your thoughts here, but I have a lot of thoughts.
Yeah. I'll set the table for you, and we can just go from there. So Sawyer Robertson comes in and, just really slinging the ball around. And then if you look at what SMU's Achilles heel was last year, they really struggled against the pass. And when you only return 2 defensive starters, I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing for SMU? Because a team that was very bad against the pass, maybe they're going to be better on defense this year because they only have 2 returning starters. I tend to think that's not going to be the case. Rhett Lashley's a good coach. He's very vocal. Obviously, we saw that with him making the case for his SMU Mustangs last year to get into the playoff and everything else. But Sawyer Robertson putting up 419 and 3 touchdowns on a good Auburn secondary last week makes me think, okay, this could be a bloodbath. But then on the flip side of that, I look at what Jackson Arnold did against the same Baylor defense on the road at Baylor, and Kevin Jennings is like that dude who can make that same sort of exploitation of the interior of their defense through the read option, and he can sling it around a little bit too. So that's going to be the matchup to me, is watching how those two teams, when you have two teams where the weakness of one can easily be exploited by the strength of the other. It just, I don't know. The one thing I'm looking at is like, I'm pretty sure I'm taking the over.
That's yeah.
I don't even know what the number is, but give me the over.
Yeah, bro.
You know what
I'm not gonna. I don't hate that at all. The biggest thing for Kevin Jennings was like how he left us all, the national public, was kind of really coughing it up against Penn State and his mistakes being amplified and being one of the biggest reasons that they were out of that game early.
Right.
And so that's what SMU is looking for him to do, is to continue to improve and, not make as many mistakes this year. Last game, he had a pick and a fumble. So, -2 in the turnover margin individually.
Right.
Against, I forget who these guys play. It's like, these are, FCS, lower ranked.
Right. Unimportant.
Unimportant, I agree. But he played overall okay. It just Robertson lit the world on fire, against, like you said, a talented Auburn secondary.
Yep.
I really like Baylor here. I think that if Baylor sticks to what they can be, they were going to ruin SMU. Like that's my honest opinion. SMU went in the portal, got a lot of defenders, so like they could have a very revamped defense coming into this game. My surface level reaction is I like Baylor here. I think that Jennings, the Baylor defense could get in Jennings' head. I think that Arnold is a way better quarter. Way better.
Yeah.
Jennings, but.
Yeah. The other thing too is, that week 1 to week 2 improvement is a thing, right? And I think it's easier to maybe tighten up a few things that you didn't get done last week against your opponent this week, especially if you already had an actual challenging opponent. Whereas I don't know how easy it's going to be for SMU to change their defensive identity from one year to the next. It's possible. LSU's done it, right? So it's possible, but I don't know what quality they actually brought in from the portal, because they got a lot of dudes, but what are we talking about quality wise? I still look at that over. It is 63.5, by the way. So that's a big number, but I don't know, man. I'm thinking like 34-31 is definitely in the cards.
That is absolutely in the cards. That's like that is a Baylor still being a Big 12 team. Honestly, when you think about it, Chad,
SMU and Baylor are Big 12 teams.
Yeah,
why are we playing? Why are they not in the same conference?
Yeah,
anymore?
Baylor being the quarterback threw for 450 and they still lost.
Right. And then SMU just went to the ACC to still be a Big 12 team.
Right.
This is the world we live in now, Tyler. What the hell's going on?
We live in. So a classic. For some reason, it seems to be week 2. I guess this is like their thing for a big rivalry game. Iowa State. Iowa State being ranked number 16 as a 3.5-point favorite. This is in Ames. Chad, your thoughts?
Yeah. So Mark Gronkowski coming in to quarterback the Hawkeyes, and Rocco Becht doing what he did in Ireland against K-State in that opener in the what was it, the Potato Farmers Rebellion or something?
Oh, the Farmageddon.
Yeah, Potato Farmageddon. It was a joke. It's just like it was like I'm thinking of like, how do you do Farmageddon in Ireland? And it's like all I can think of is it has to be potato farmers, or sheep farmers or something. 4-leaf clover farmers, who knows? Anyway, shillelaghs, shamrocks. It's Irish. So, but no, Rocco Becht did his thing, and Iowa State's favored in this game by 3.5. I kind of like that. Both of these teams come in, returning 10 starters, so there's a lot to like there. But the thing I'm looking at is, Matt Campbell, kind of has Iowa State on the rise a little bit. Kirk Ferentz is like this. I don't know. It's just like he's kind of like if you could do a 2X of Mark Stoops. It's like it's so hard to fire him because he's just like mid all the time.
He's been the head coach.
It's not bad enough to get fired, but he's not good enough to ever do anything like really that you would say is like achievement. But this is like this has been how long has Iowa been like the 4th or 5th best team in the Big Ten? Like forever.
he's been the head coach at Iowa as long as I've been alive.
Yeah.
So we put it that way.
Yeah, 1999, and they went 0-8 his first year. They went 3-5 since then, and he's got like a 139-88 career record, including that 3-11 to start, or 3-15? No, what 3-13? 3-13 to start. So like by Big Ten standards, it's like this is like a well above 500 career record, and yet every year it seems like I was somewhere between 7-5 and I don't know, maybe 9-3.
Yeah,
you know, it's like I don't. They've had a couple of times where I was looking through the record. It's like they'll go 8-0 in the Big Ten, and somehow they'll lose 2 other games. Like, who are you losing to?
Well, they found themselves in the Big Ten championship out of nowhere before too.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of pop up there.
Yeah.
Talking about Gronowski, so he was supposed to be the guy that was, like you talk about game sliders.
Yeah.
And like Iowa just plays with passing turned off most of the time.
Yeah. Right.
He was supposed to be the guy that's supposed to be the one that could throw the ball, and then he threw for 44 yards last week.
Right.
Wow.
It's Iowa football, man. Like, listen, there's a reason why you and I for a few years there were just like we were loving the under when Iowa played, and we were looking at who their punter was.
Dude,
like we were
punts,
just like
baby.
blazing the punter because he was
Punts.
like money.
Yeah, dude. Listen, punts, baby. And hey, I'm an Eagles fan. Shout out Cooper DeJean. So I remember last year or 2 years ago, it was Iowa, Nebraska at Nebraska. In the over under was like 30. It was like either in like the high 20s, low 30s.
I was gonna say I think it was high 20s. It was
the high 20s, and it was like 10-3 at half, and like they didn't score again.
Yeah.
To like seal the under, and it was like something. It was just like they
had one where they what was it? They picked off. They threw a pick.
Yes, they threw a pick
or something. They threw a pick 6. Or no, it was a pick. The guy got tackled at like the 3, and then they didn't score. Yeah, and then they went backwards and missed the long field goal or something like that.
Well, and then you thought they were going to score because I think like Iowa broke one up the middle and then still got tackled, and then they missed the field goal or something. They missed
the field goal too, and it was just like
right. And there you saw they panned to 2 guys in the crowd with shirts that just said punts on the t-shirts.
Yeah,
I like Iowa State in this game.
I'm not trying to say anything bad about Big Ten football, but like, yes, I don't think you will ever see in the stands 2 dudes with punts painted across their shirt, their chests, their naked chests.
Yeah,
but like excited about it. Like they're like no, like the star of the team for Iowa is the punter. Dude, that's how bad it can be.
Listen, one of Georgia's top recruits, like on the last recruiting class, who's waiting to play, was the number 1 punter in the nation. And where is he from? He's from the state of Iowa.
Yeah,
like it's just like it is what it is.
And nothing wrong with having a good punter on your team.
Yeah,
it's just that he's there to do one job, but the other dudes are supposed to do something besides set him up to do his job.
Yeah, right. He shouldn't be out there if you're doing your job.
That's supposed to be the linchpin of your whole scheme.
Put him on the 5, baby. Put him on the 5. I like Iowa State here. I think it's -3.5 because of the historical, context of this game.
But it was 2019 Iowa State last year, a 1-point game in Ames. Like
I think over-under like in the 40s this year.
No, it was at Iowa, wasn't it, last year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Anyway, what were you saying?
The over-under is like in the 40s. And I think like Iowa State could just turn it up. Like they have a good offense.
41.5.
Their offense looks good. They look good.
It's like the highest over-under in 5 years for Iowa.
No, seriously. And I would take Iowa State in those 3.5 points if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me before I let you say what you have to say. When Oklahoma and Texas left the Big 12 for the SEC, both of us for sure, and anybody else would have thought this is the chance for Mike Gunny to grab the Big 12 by the balls and be like, they're gone. We could do it now, guys. And holy shit, have they gone downhill in a big way. They had Ollie Gordon. They convinced him to stay for another year, and that was the end of that.
Worst decision ever.
Worst decision ever. Unfortunately for that guy,
Like I think Ollie Gordon would have had a better chance if his like career path had turned out like Maurice Claret's, where he left too early and wasn't allowed to go to the NFL. Like, I think it would have been less damaging to his career than what actually happened.
I don't disagree at all. But Oregon is a 27.5-point favorite in Eugene.
Mm-hmm.
Dan Lanning, I think they just absolutely boat race Oklahoma State, unfortunately, which is crazy because, like, you'd think that, like, Oklahoma State should be there, and they've been good in the past.
Yeah.
You look about, the Justin Blackman teams of the past. It's just Brandon Whedon and whatnot. It just sucks, man. What are your thoughts here?
I'm a man. Talk to me. Anyway, that's kind of how Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy sound these days. It's very. It doesn't have. They're not saying it from their chest anymore. It's like a very falsetto.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
I'm 40. Come at me. Like, it's very much like he swallowed a helium balloon, and it ain't the same, man. I don't know. Like I tend to agree. I think this is a great opportunity for Oregon to start to like build whatever they expect this to be this year. Lost a lot of dudes from last year. A team that I think, a lot of people were shocked when they laid an egg the way that they did in the first round of the playoffs, or I guess the second round of the playoffs in their first playoff game last year. The only undefeated team going into that playoff, and I don't know, was there a team that got more embarrassed?
No.
In their of the bye week teams who lost, was there one that was more embarrassed than them? Notre Dame won. Georgia lost.
Yeah, Notre Dame beat us. We were the bye week team. We shot ourselves in the foot and played like garbage. Yeah. At least it was like a close game, at least on paper.
No, it was a close game. So you guys acquitted yourselves okay.
No, was that nope? I try to think about who the bye week team was.
No, it was Texas. No.
Texas, Arizona State almost lost.
Yeah, Arizona State. That's right. So Arizona State held their own though. Yeah. And then what was the other one? Penn State and Boise State.
Boise State.
And Boise State played better than Oregon did. It was more of a game. So like to be the number one team in the country, and now granted they lost to the eventual national champions, but still like
But they beat them in the regular season. Like that season.
Embarrassed like that. It was just crazy. So a lot of stuff for Oregon to try to get right here. Mike Gundy against Dan Lanning. 3 starters coming back for Oklahoma State. Not a whole lot. And the craziest part about it is, so we were talking about punters earlier in Iowa. Do you want to know who the 3 starters returning for Oklahoma State are?
Is it like the punter, kicker, and long snapper?
It's a defensive tackle, a tight end, and the punter. Like if you had 3 dudes who are going to return for you, like tight end and punter, like defensive tackle, maybe, but like no quarterback, no running back, no receiver, no offensive lineman. Like, no, just a punter, a tight end, and a D-tack.
I think it all went downhill when Gundy named his son the starting quarterback and he sucked. Mm-hmm. That was like the real downhill for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So, Chad, we're going to go back to a year twice in this show today. And the first time we're going to do it is right now. I'm going to take it back to 2007.
Yeah.
Number 2 versus number 4. Chase Daniel versus Tommy Reesing.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas versus Mizzou.
Hang on, because before we move on to that game, I got a couple of things about Oregon real quick.
Okay, let me. Okay, I got excited.
Not ready to jump into that one yet.
Okay.
So we talked about Darian Mensah at Duke. Another Tulane transfer, Mekhi Hughes, is now Oregon's starting running back. They also have Dante Moore at quarterback, Decorian Moore, the number 1 overall receiver, who flipped from LSU to go to Oregon, got that Nike money and jumped ship. I expect big things out of him, and that's one of those guys. And then you still have Evan Thomas from Texas A&M. So you've got some dudes there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Oregon can actually start to put on display because I think Lanning is one of those guys who he's going to keep similar like Ryan Day. And I think you're starting to see it with you've seen it for years with Kirby Smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Brian Kelly is starting to build that at LSU now, where you're going to have dudes. And so even if you don't return that many starters, like look at what Ohio State did with Texas this weekend. They lost 14 dudes to the draft, and then they still have studs because they have all those 5 stars that are just waiting their turn, right?
Right.
They're kind of rare, teams like that in the NIL transfer portal era, right? But this is one. And then you look at what they do. They go get one of the best running backs in the portal. Mekhi Hughes, 1,400 yards, 15 touchdowns last year. So granted, it's for Tulane in, much, in a group of 5 conference, but still I'm interested to see what Oregon puts on tape here in this game because they should destroy Oklahoma State. But
unfortunately.
Yeah. All right. So
Okay.
Go ahead.
Can I get it? Okay. So we're going to pretend that didn't happen. Time machine. Now, are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, let's do it. So 2007, 2 versus 4, Mizzou versus Kansas, Chase Daniel versus Todd Reesing in an absolute shootout.
Yeah.
And now we are back. You have Jalen Daniels versus Bo Pribula.
Yeah.
I've been high on Bo Pribula. I'm really excited to see him as a starter, as he rightfully deserves to be in this game. This is what they call for the battle for the border, right? Is that what they call this? Battle for the border.
Man. There's so many weird rivalries that I don't get. Yeah, sure. Let's call it that. Rock, Chop, Jayhawk, and whatever. Yeah, something like that.
Neither team is ranked. M-I-Z-Z-O-U. Neither team is ranked. Mizzou is favored in this game here. Both played. No one looked great against no one. However, kind of weird. Jalen Daniels played Fresno State 31-7. It's kind of like you'd think they would just absolutely demolish them. Daniels,
they handled them pretty well still.
For sure. They transfer receiver Manuel Henderson looks good from Alabama, playing for the Jayhawks. This is interesting because this is Kansas without Devin Neal, and I know that you remember Devin Neal, that running back who was just an absolute dog for them last year, who helped them kind of where they got good too late in the Big 12 last year, where it really muddied up the end of year playoff picture for the Big 12. Pribula last week threw for 283, 2 tuds, rushed for 2 as well. I love that a lot. They have transfer running back Ahmad Hardy from ULM, rushed for 100 and a tud, and receiver Marquise Johnson caught for 134 and a tud. Dude, I am so excited for this game. I'm so excited to see Bo Pribula be the guy that I think is going to be. I think Drink is going to keep improving this team. I think the SEC improved a lot when Mizzou decided to get good, if I'm being honest with you. They had Matty Mock, they had Drew Lock. I think Pribula is truly going to be their guy to make the difference, especially with Drink as the coach. It's very interesting because you have Jalen Daniels, a 6th-year senior.
I was going to say,
who has not played a complete season. Really, he's been here and there. And you have.
I remember though when Jaden Daniels was on his Heisman run, there was talk in like week 4 or 5 that like Jalen Daniels, other Jalen Daniels, not Jaden but Jalen.
Yep.
And there's another Jalen Daniels, but anyway, this Jalen Daniels was like one of the other guys that they were talking about, and then he got hurt. Because he gets hurt like all the time, but he was putting up numbers, man.
Right. So I really believe in Pribula. I believe in Drink. I believe that we have it at Mizzou, by the way. It sounds like Kansas, they are not returning the defense that they once had last year. Is it older defense though? It's 7 of 8 are seniors and older. So you have age. You have what am I trying to say? So you bring cohesiveness at least to the unit. You have experience to the unit, so that's good. I like Mizzou here. I think that, but I do not like them with a spread here. I think this is too big, in my opinion. I think it's going to be closer than this spread. But I do think that
we talked about Illinois and the close games this year. Missouri's another one of those teams. Like Drink finds a way.
Yeah.
But seems to find a way to like play with his food a little bit. And
I don't think that this. I think this is
almost lost out to Vanderbilt last year before Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Remember that?
Right.
But,
So
I want to say this though real quick. So I made a mistake. Texas A&M fans and also Oregon fans, don't come at me. I'm correcting it now. Just hopefully you watched this far after I made the mistake. Evan Stewart, not Evan Thomas. I was thinking Noah Thomas, but it's Evan Stewart, not Evan Thomas. Anyway, the receiver who transferred from A&M to Oregon a couple of years back. He's back in Oregon, and he's across from him is DeCorey Moore. But yeah, it's funny you brought up that Mizzou Kansas game from 2007 because it's that year was the year before Ohio State did it last year. The only other 2-loss team in the history of college football to win a national championship was LSU in 2007. And we did it because of this game that you're talking about. So at the end of it's like the week before Thanksgiving or the day before Thanksgiving or something like that. We're playing Arkansas like the day after Thanksgiving. And I told my dad, because we were going to the game, I was like, hey, there's a crazy scenario where like we could lose that game to Arkansas and then still go on and play for the national championship. I said, Arizona State has to lose to USC, Kansas has to lose to Missouri, then Missouri has to lose to Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game. Then this team, Pittsburgh needs to beat West Virginia, blah, 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 all the way down. And like everything happened, including us losing in 3 overtimes to Darren McFadden, Peyton Hillis, and Felix Jones. And that Arkansas team, it was 50-48 in overtime, triple overtime. And sure enough, Missouri beat Kansas because Kansas was undefeated at the point that they played that game. Mm-hmm. Then Oklahoma beat Missouri. And then, Pat White and that West Virginia team that had none other than Pat McAfee punting for them. They lost to Shady McCoy and Pittsburgh. And there's just a whole bunch of, little ripple effects. And, anyway, so there we are. And who did we beat in that 2007 national championship game? The Ohio State Buckeyes, 38-24. Just reminding some of our loyal fans. Anyway.
I also really like the over in this game. I think that in
50.5
fashion, in the fashion of that 2007 game where both quarterbacks go stupid, I think that is entirely possible for both to play very well, and obviously both cannot win. So I like Mizzou at a high scoring game, and I think I could see Kansas covering, but I'm not going to take a spread one way or the other.
Yeah.
And for everybody, this is not technically a betting show. We just like talking college football, but I think the spreads help us out a little bit when we're talking about the context of these games, just for everybody knowing. So do not take what we say and apply it to your betting odds for this week. I'm just saying.
But it does lend a little bit of insight though into when you see a line that is like, wait a second, what?
Right. It helps. It makes you think.
Who knows something, and what do they know, and what does it mean?
What does it mean? The numbers. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
What does it mean? So yes, give me the over. Give me Mizzou. Give me Prebula, the guy who should have been starting at Penn State this year because Aller could have went to the draft. But I digress. An interesting game from last year. One of the bugaboos that kept Ole Miss out of the playoffs last year. They now go to Lexington to play Ole Stoops in Kentucky. Mark Poops, as T-Bob Bear likes to call him. Ole Miss minus 8.5. Do you think that Ole Miss stubs their toe twice? Chat.
I mean, Yahoo has it at 9.5. And I think it's a possibility. I think the kind of the consensus is, there's no way that, that was a fluke last year. They did it in Oxford, by the way. This one's in Lexington. Also, do you know how many starters from that mercenary team that Ole Miss put together that tried to make a run at the playoff and a national championship last year? You know how many starters are back this year for Kentucky?
For Ole Miss or Kentucky?
5 for Ole Miss.
Oh, wow.
5 starters. Austin Simmons coming in and starting a quarterback. They also have 3 LSU retreads. Deshaun Womack transferred from LSU to Ole Miss. Logan Diggs transferred from LSU to Ole Miss. Sage Ryan, our worst defender by Pro Football Focus, transferred from LSU to Ole Miss. So good luck with that. No shade towards Sage Ryan, respect, but it's just there's a reason why LSU did what they did in the portal. I think when Sage Ryan transferred, they had probably already had a sit-down meeting with him saying, hey, man, I'm just letting you know we are bringing in dudes to replace you because we've got to get better because we're making a run at a natty next year. So for whatever reason, look, Lane Kiffin was like, sweet, let me have some of that. And so Zap Calzada and Mark Stoops get to try to do their thing. There's no Brock Vandegrift to screw things up for him this year.
Happy retirement, buddy.
Yeah, I think they've got a shot. I really do. And I think that a lot of people are just making some assumptions about Ole Miss that this is like that you just look at the name on the helmet and you just transfer over a certain quality. Mm-hmm. And all due respect to Lane Kiffin as a coach and as a recruiter and everything else, but I mean, you got to give a little bit of respect to Mark Stoops as a coach as well, because even though he's coaching at a basketball school and they're generally like bottom third of the SEC year in, year out. That's why I compared him to Kirk Ferentz. Like, how is he still in the league? I don't understand how he's still. But then I remember, oh yeah, it's Kentucky. They don't care.
It is in fact Kentucky.
So they're okay with being like 500 or worse and just kind of treading water and every now and then popping up and upsetting somebody. And he's done it before. Like, he had Will Levis, and they were actually decent when he had Will Levis. So give me Kentucky plus the points and maybe sprinkle a little bit on that money line because Kentucky might actually pull this off. I know it doesn't sound right for lightning to strike twice in the same spot, but it's not the same spot. It's in Lexington. Last year it was in Oxford, so I'm saying it's going to strike again.
So my thoughts is that I feel like Lane Kiffin is that guy. When you hurt him and you do things to him,
he's going to put 40 on him.
He's gonna be like, "Nah, go fuck yourself." We're gonna like he's probably had that shit circled.
He's gonna keep throwing in the fourth quarter up by 4 touchdowns. He's
gonna run that shit up. We're gonna go for it on like 4th and 5 on our own 30 because fuck you, Mark Stoops, and fuck you, Kentucky for.
All right, so then here's the play. Here's the play. Put $5 on the money line for Kentucky, and then put like another $5 on Ole Miss minus 38 or something.
You make.
You know what I'm saying? And then it's just like, hey, look, one of these two scenarios is likely to happen. And
I just think that I talk about Ole Miss. I like Austin Simmons, and I know that I go back to the same one singular drive that he had against us. Yeah. However, when you flash like that and you have Lane Kiffin as your head coach and you are a quarterback, you're going to be able to throw that sucker. You're going to be able to spin that thing as much as he wants you to spin it. That's all I got to say. And he's going to give you opportunities to throw the ball and run it up. So I'm not going to take it. I'm not going to.
Well for Syracuse against Tennessee last week, right? Because he had that one drive against Penn State, Notre Dame, right? Okay, yeah. Well, don't let facts get in the way of your good little story there.
Yeah, brother. I do like my good little story. Listen, I'm not saying that I don't need Ole Miss to cover. I just think that they win this game.
I made my story up too, so it's all good.
That's I'm gonna say that's how I feel. I still like Ole Miss here. They will stub their toe because it is still Lane Kiffin, but I just don't think it's here. You know what I'm saying? We got to give him a little bit of time. He's got to right the wrong. He's got to right the wrongs from last year and then find new wrongs. He's got to right next year because he's still going to be Lane Kiffin and not in the playoffs.
Right.
That's how I feel.
I got you. Yeah.
That's how I feel. You feel very strongly after we watched some Thursday? No, Friday. This was
which game? That? I don't even know. I think it was Friday night.
No, this was actually Thursday night. This was Thursday night. Okay. USF, Boise State, USF whooped them, and they now find themselves going down to the swamp against number 13 Florida.
Are they going down to the swamp? They're going up to the swamp.
Yeah, they are going up to the swamp.
They got to go up. They got to go north to get there. Eastville is north for them.
That's a good. I never thought about that. You have to go up. So they find themselves.
They're used to the swamp. They were born in it.
Molded by it.
Molded by it. That's
right.
I
got the ref. So against DJ Lagway, who we talked
DJ Lagway
about
versus Byron Brown. It's Billy Napier, Sunbelt Billy, as we call him, against Alex Golish. 13 starters returning for South Florida, 14 starters returning for Florida for the Gators. They're playing in the swamp. So I tend to think this has a chance of like South Florida kind of hanging around. I tend away from thinking they have a chance to pull off the upset, although I mean the possibility always exists, right? But the thing that concerns me with trying to pick them as an upset possibility, I think they could cover this spread, but trying to pull that upset, I think the best thing that could have happened to them was for them to not boat race Boise State last week.
Right.
Because if Billy Napier needed any fuel to motivate his team to not take this one lightly, it is South Florida destroying a playoff team, a top 4 seed, a bye week, who actually acquitted themselves okay enough against Penn State. Granted, there's no Ashton Jeanty on this team, but yeah, South Florida, man, they got dudes. And look, it's kind of crazy because if you remember, this South Florida team is the same South Florida team that like 2 years in a row has given Alabama everything they can handle. And they've had some other games where they've made it, they've uglied it up and muddied the waters, and it is a swamp. So the water's already muddy. So I'm just saying, like, it's a possibility that this team could pull it off. I just tend to think that Florida, that Napier, and he's got some dudes on that squad. Like, they've got a good defensive line, they've got a good secondary, they've got some guys that can really get it done, and I think they'll have enough to pull this one off. But I think South Florida can keep it under that 17.5.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that if you're South Florida, you got to punch them in the mouth and you got to keep the foot on the gas because, they are Florida and it's DJ Lagway and they'll do what they have to do. I just was very impressed with how USF took care of Boise State. They're very proud of the guys that they had returned for them, and that they've had most of the guys that start for them have been with the program the whole way through, with some very key transfers, which we talked about in last week's video, by the way. So yeah, I think the 17.5, I think that USF can get inside that for sure. So there's a couple of games we're just going to breeze through, and then we'll keep it moving. For this, there's 2 games just because of how last week ended up. You have Army going to Manhattan to play Kansas State minus 17.5 after Kansas State's had a rough. And apparently, is it Avery Johnson's dad is just a problem? Is that what
I don't know.
The deal is?
I don't know.
You don't know. We'll keep it moving.
I think people found out that his dad's black, and that's why they're just making a big deal about it. I don't know. It's weird because it's
fighting a brother and something like that. It was just something weird.
I don't know what's going on yeah.
Kansas State almost lost to University of North Dakota last week, barely by the skin of their teeth. So just to put on everybody's radar, could Army go down and beat Kansas State? Who knows? That's all I have to say about that. Anyway,
we don't know. We don't know anything yet. We're going to watch. We're going to watch.
Yeah. One of the big ones for Saturday, Kenny Dillingham and the boys, the number 12 Arizona State Sun Devils, go to Starkville, and that's one of the biggest reasons that this game is such a big deal. They did beat Mississippi State last week, but that was last year. That was out west. So now, without Cam Scatterbo, which I think is going to make a big difference, you got to face the literal music, or not music, the racket that is the cowbells of
the cacophony of idiots ringing stupid cowbells. Yeah, it's, if there's a thing that should be banned, it's that. We
talk about this once a season.
Can we just make our tradition be air horns and just bring air horns everywhere we go? We won't have them in our stadium, just everywhere else.
Isn't it kind of nuts that there's a tradition where we just make aggressive noise? Yeah, it's the
vuvuzelas for everyone.
I told you, vuvuzelas for everyone. The people already lost their hearing in the World Cup games. That's why they don't have them anymore. And yet Starkville can still have cowbells. Test the hearing of everybody in Starkville, Mississippi.
That's right.
Anyway, let's talk about the actual game. Arizona State does not return Cam Scatterbo, but they do return the most two important parts of that team. A healthy Jordan Tyson. He went for 141 and 2 touchdowns last week.
And he was great before he got hurt last year.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I think that like if he stays healthy, they beat Texas in last year's playoff. Jordan Tyson healthy, they win. Sam Leavitt, 257 and a pick against it was like University of Northern Arizona or something like that. He also he was the leading rusher on the team at the same time with 73 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. On the flip side,
somebody's got to pick up that Scatterbo vacancy, right?
You have Blake Shapen, 272, 1 touchdown, 1 pick against Southern Miss, mind you, last week. Arizona State was the top run defense in the Big 12 last year, and they returned most of that defense this year, which is going to make it tough for Mississippi State. Mississippi State returns Devon Booth, their top rusher, 80 yards and a ton last week. They also bring in, I love this name, Fluff Bothwell, who's a transfer from University of South Alabama, rushed for 43, and another returning running back, Johnny Daniels, rushed for 28. They brought in a slew of transfer receivers in Starkville. Top guy last week was Brennan Thompson. He was a transfer from Oklahoma with 92 receiving yards. They also had a big boy tight end, Seydou Traore, got through that one, 79 yards and a tud. And shout out Anthony Evans III, Georgia transfer, who had 36 receiving yards. But the biggest thing is that Mississippi State didn't really have much of a defense last year and didn't really make much changes to it this year, unfortunately. So it's kind of like, will Arizona State walk in and punch him in the mouth at night, or will some Starkville magic happen? That is the biggest question. What are your thoughts, Chad?
What happens in Stark Vegas, thankfully, stays in Stark Vegas, except for the damn cowbells. They bring them everywhere. But, yeah, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. Like, it's hard to go against Dillingham and the Arizona State, like the ethos, you know? And I still think, like, R.I.P. Mike Leach, but if he were still around and coaching in this game, like, man, hell, you might be having game day down there, because who knows what, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, I just don't know. But I still feel like there's like they're not the same as they were when he was there. And I hope they can bring some of that aggressiveness that he brought, because I think it's going to take some little riverboat gambler type stuff that Mike Leach would do, you know, going forward on 4th and 3 from your own 23, you know, that kind of stuff, to keep Sam Leavitt and that offense from having an extra possession or two. Those kinds of things. We'll see if State can actually pull it off. But this is one of those games where it's actually a really good opportunity. I think it's like a win-win for the SEC, because if Mississippi State wins this game, damn, like Mississippi State's on the map, you know? And if they don't win this game, it's just like, yeah, it's Mississippi State. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
I feel like, here's how I kind of feel this game will go, because it sounds like just like most schools prep for, you know, for big games with crowd noise, or you have the team's fight song, or you have XYZ going, you know, for all the extracurriculars that happen. Arizona State has been practicing with cowbells ringing all week long.
Yeah. So
I think that there's a chance that, like, it could be, you know, there could be some funky stuff. Mississippi State gets an early turnover early in the game. You know, the game stays tight. But if you let Leavitt and Tyson click, it's over.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel. So I like Arizona State here. I would love to see Mississippi State win this game. Don't get me wrong. But you talk about, you know, sometimes you have to think about when you want to use the story and the storylines, and you want to go facts and logic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Arizona State.
This is a facts and logic spot. Definitely.
It absolutely is. Probably the biggest game, because it's ranked on ranked this coming weekend, is Michigan traveling down to Norman, Oklahoma, to play John Mateer in a Boomer Sooner. It's so funny that you have the flip side of the NIL situation with you have the however many millions of dollars that Bryce Underwood is worth coming out of high school to be the quarterback at Michigan. He threw for 251 last week, got the job done. It's more like Michigan's defense kind of letting up a lot to New Mexico. And then you have Mateer throwing for 392, looking great. And it's about which offense is going to get it done, if I'm being honest with you,
Yeah. Mateer had like 70 yards and a touchdown rushing too. So
yeah, no doubt.
He gets it done.
So it's about like the defense is having to shape up just a little bit. What are your thoughts here? I mean, this could go, in my opinion, I think that Oklahoma has the edge because of Norman. I think that's I don't have to think about this too much. I think Oklahoma has dudes. They have the quarterback they needed. And biggest game of the weekend rankings wise, but I like Oklahoma outright here. It could be a tight game, just like how Texas. I think it's so. When you think about it, you have Texas, Ohio State week 1, and then you turn it and flip it on its head, and you have Michigan and Oklahoma the following week. I think that's pretty cool. I think that college football is really trying to do a little bit more with the scheduling of these big games earlier in the year, especially out of conference. I like Oklahoma and John Mateer in this game.
I do too, because it's not just John Mateer. I mean, you remember we talked about it in our preview episode where we talked about pumping the tires on Oklahoma. This is one of those spots where I think they have a chance to step onto the map and really like announce themselves as having re-arrived as Oklahoma again, because I think they haven't been Oklahoma for a couple of years, including before they came to the SEC. Not their traditional. I mean, they did beat Texas a couple of years ago in the Red River rivalry in that Dylan Gabriel comeback, but you look at they've stubbed their toe inexplicably sometimes. So this is a chance for Brent Venables and John Mateer, Ben Arbuckle, and those guys to really step onto the scene and establish themselves against a freshman quarterback, a true freshman quarterback who has amazing talent, but the reality is he's a true freshman quarterback. You're playing in Norman. You got a veteran quarterback who, yes, he's not been at Oklahoma this whole time, but he's got his OC. There's that continuity there. But let's not forget Jaden Ott, stud running back that they brought over from Cal, who helps out in the running game. And then you have like 4 out of their front 7 returning, 3 out of their front 4, and then 3 offensive linemen returning. Like, you've got some continuity there, whereas Michigan is still kind of recovering from that national championship team and all the fallout of all the what's his face, the sign stealing scandal and everything else.
Stallions.
And Connor Stallions and Jim Harbaugh and all that stuff. And then they still isn't their coach still suspended? Like, what, we're still dealing with a different setup for Michigan versus Oklahoma has like this continuity and this like normality that they get to rest in, and they're playing at home. Yeah, give me Oklahoma all day, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say, I think there's some games that require more thinking. As good of a matchup as this is, I don't think it requires much, man. I think Oklahoma takes that, no problem. This is a game that I am very much looking forward to. I think it's going to be one of the best games. Honestly, Chad, sneaky great game of the weekend.
Agreed.
We have Virginia Tech -2.5 in Blacksburg against Diego Pavia and Clark Lee of the Vanderbilt Commodores, traveling up. Last year, Vanderbilt surprised everybody. Oh, my God. And they beat Virginia Tech. Then we realized that Vanderbilt was good for once, so that was pretty awesome. Diego Pavia plays that brand of what I like to call, and what other people like to call, fuck you football, where it's like, I'm just going to take over this game, and you're going to have to deal with it, and I'm going to tell you all about it while it's happening. And so that's always an X factor to deal with in games like this. However, we talk about Virginia Tech on the other side of that, playing SC last week, losing. And it's interesting because Kyron Drones, the quarterback for Virginia Tech, threw 221 and 2 picks. But it's so weird, right? It's when you sift through the bad and you find the good. The good looks great, obviously. But he's got some dudes on the outside as receivers. And if they can put it together better than they did last week, and now they're at home at night in Blacksburg, I don't think it's I think we got ourselves a game here, man. Obviously, you have to worry about Diego Pavia, 3 for 275, 3 tuds. Vandy's also returning 7 starters of their defense that ended up helping them beat Alabama last year. Could be overthinking it here, could not be. I think that Virginia Tech wins this game, man. It could be close. And if Pavia does some crazy stuff and they do run the offense that they did last year, where they mix up looks and they win, I'm not going to be surprised here. But I don't, even though Virginia Tech is still favored on the odds here.
Yep.
I think people need to realize that Virginia Tech could have won that game last week, and they could win this one. And my generation, I shouldn't say that. That's not a good example. The past couple of years, I should say, you kind of forget like how good Virginia Tech used to be. You know what I mean? And like your Blacksburg at night. Enter Sandman is one of the best college traditions of all time, and that place is going to be jumping. And there's like a thing where they sometimes will play Enter Sandman mid-game. They don't do it all the time. This is going to be one of those games, man. Yes, I'm telling you.
I think so.
I like Virginia Tech, and I think if Drones rights the wrongs he had last week, we could see a great game. And give me the over here as well. I think that like
47.5.
Yeah, give me that over 1,000%.
So I think everything you said like hits the nail on the head. It's playing in Blacksburg, and then like looking at what Kyron Drones did in Atlanta last week. Neutral site, but in a game where they should have been relatively outmatched by a really talented South Carolina team, really well coached South Carolina team, and a South Carolina team that was coming into this season playing for a national championship. Like, we might not all believe that, but they do. Like, they are coming into this thing. They're ready to make a run. They're pissed off they didn't make the playoff last year. They feel like they got robbed, and they're coming out to make a statement. And they took a punch in the mouth when Lenora Sellers drove right down the field on them. And then if you look at the middle, like 3 quarters of that game, they held South Carolina in check. And they were this close to actually taking the lead in that game. And they punt the ball away, and South Carolina houses it. And then at the end of the game, when it's starting to slip away from them, that's when you see Lenora Sellers kind of break out and make a couple of plays. But they really did a good job of containing him and actually even hitting him behind the line of scrimmage and making his day sort of hellish. What was it, like 11-5 or something at one point? Or 10-5? I don't remember.
It was close. It was super close. It was like close.
They sacked him for a safety. There's all kinds of –
yeah, dude. It like this.
Diego Pavia in that same type of scenario, and you take him and you drop him in Blacksburg. The other thing is, like what we talked about, if Virginia Tech had somehow beaten South Carolina, I would lean Vanderbilt in this game. But because Virginia Tech did not beat South Carolina and the score looks uglier than it is, I bet you Diego Pavia and those other guys did not go watch that game, watch the game film. They didn't. They saw film, but they look at the score and they see what they see in schemes and everything else and coverages and personnel and everything. But they're not looking at, oh man, like this game was like this. These guys almost knocked off South Carolina. I have a feeling that they're going to walk into Virginia Tech with a certain expectation that on the heels of what they did last year, just like what we've talked about before, what do we say? When you see a team do what Vanderbilt did last year, the assumption is they're still going to do the good things they did, and they're just going to eliminate some of the bad things and get better. And I'm telling you, like, this is a massive trap for them where if they're not careful, they're going to walk out of Blacksburg with a big fat L. And it's going to be because they underestimated what Virginia Tech actually brings to the table. Because this Virginia Tech, like, yeah, they beat Vanderbilt last year it was a very close game. But we thought like, oh, damn, there's something here. Then they almost beat Miami. They had Miami beat. And then the referees kind of convened and said, you know what? We don't have any evidence to overturn this. We're going to overturn it anyway, and we're going to say it's incomplete. So, like, this is a squad that can actually get things done. And to your point, like, yes, those receivers, both green on the outside. Like, they got some dudes out there. And some of the catches they were making, like, yeah, they bail out Kyron Jones because he'll make some throws that you it leaves a lot to be desired in terms of like the consistency of the accuracy. But when he's on, he's on. And if he's on in Blacksburg at home, and the other thing is everybody tends to forget like what happens when you're on the road versus when you're at home. That little half beat that you get in the pass rush and in pass protection is a huge neutralizer if you're the underdog, or it could give you a huge advantage if it's a fairly even matchup. And I think this is.
Yeah, no doubt. I like Virginia Tech through and through. And so, Chad, I'm going to give you the floor. Let's see how you can summarize all this up for us. I know you have a lot to say on this game. Shades of 2007 once again. You have the floor.
Alabama hosting Louisiana-Monroe. You're thinking this is an easy win for the Tide, right?
No.
No, sir. First quarter, John Parker Wilson intercepted by Quintez Secca. Louisiana-Monroe in this game. Later in the first, Secca with another pick. And this time he has a gain of 30 yards that led to a touchdown, and we're tied at 7, and they're starting to feel it at Monroe's world-famous honky-tonk. Second quarter, Frank Gooden ties it at 14, and Louisiana-Monroe goes on to the upset win, 21-14. Nick Saban said afterwards, "I'm embarrassed for all of our fans."
You know who else is embarrassed for all of their fans? Kalen DeBose. That's right. What did I call him? I called him Kalen DeBose. Why? Because look at this guy. He's so confused. What's going on? I don't know. Mike DeBose 2.0, Kalen DeBose, Kalen DeBoer. No, look, we're going to take this opportunity to stomp all over you because we can, and it's time for you to just recognize it, that your reign as the most dominant program in football is over. And I think you're going to win this game, but it's always fun to remind you of one of the most embarrassing moments and the excuse machine that was Alabama fan last year when you lost to Vanderbilt. And everybody was like, yeah, but we lost to Louisiana-Monroe in Saban's first year. Yeah, because Saban inherited a dumpster fire. And Kalen DeBoer inherited like an endless string of 5 stars. And look what he has done to it.
Yep.
5-5 in his last 10. 1-3 in his last 4. And Nick Saban, in the 16 years after that 2007, so that Northwestern game, they lost that game. After that, he lost 24 combined games over 16 plus seasons. That's an average of 1.5 games per season, if you don't include the little 2 games at the end of the 2007 season. They lost the Iron Bowl and then won their bowl game. But yeah, he lost a combined total of 24 games over 16 plus seasons, and your coach has lost 5 games in about, 10 months. So good luck, Alabama fan.
And all I have to say is, once again, before we move on, hey, Alabama fans, welcome to planet Earth. Quick little ditty. This is not going to take long. We have Kennesaw State going to number 23, Indiana, and at Indiana. The reason why I find this funny and relevant, it could be hilarious. One of the reasons is my mom is a Kennesaw State alum. Other reason, Indiana only beats Old Dominion 27-14. Well, yep. Kennesaw State, I don't know if you saw this last week, but they only lost 10-9 to Wake Forest. So I don't know what that says about either one of those teams.
Yeah.
But it's a large spread, man. And, Signetti could be overlooking it. That's all I got to say. And to wrap this all up, this game is actually happening as we speak. I was going to try to get this off before the game started. That is totally fine because it is still 0-0. So all of my takes will stand as is. Just saying. Shout out to the JMU Dukes as they are currently playing the Louisville Cardinals. down in Louisville. My cousin plays offensive line for them. He is not a starter, but he's still on the team, which is pretty damn cool if you ask me. JMU is a new DC, went in the portal, got some D linemen, including Aiden Gobera from Notre Dame and Xavier Holmes from Maine. They both look great. They returned running back George Pettaway, which he rushed for 99 last week, and they also have Wayne Knight as a running back. He rushed for 89. They have Alonzo Barnett, who's returning from leg injury, did his thing last week. They also have Matthew Sluka to go to, which is the guy with the whole NIL thing with UNLV. Barnett threw for 130 and a tud, and rushed for 30 and another tud. They beat UNC on the road last year straight up and actually mopped them.
Right.
Could happen again. Miller Moss in a tune-up game threw for 223, a tud, and 2 picks. So JMU is not going to let you get away with those mistakes, my friend. They do have running back Isaac Brown, who rushed for 126 and 2 tuds. So listen, all I got to say is it's still 0-0 as it stands right now, and Louisville can make mistakes. And I wasn't going to take JMU straight up, but give me the Dukes. Shout out my cousin Jake, member of the JMU Dukes. And to wrap this thing up, we have a great week 2 coming up for you, for all of us as college football fans, I should say. We appreciate everyone for stopping by. Please make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Chad, you got any thoughts before we roll on out of here?
The Tigers are number 3 in the country, ahead of the Georgia Bulldogs, who are number 4 in the country. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, there's some folks who have LSU number 1, but no, I like, as Nick Saban would say, that's rat poison. We're not going to even talk about that. The important thing is go take care of business, keep taking care of business. We are playing against the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. So I don't know which side you're rooting for, but you'll be rooting against Bulldogs if you're rooting for LSU. I'm just saying. But no, it's going to be a great weekend. Not as much high-profile stuff as last weekend, but I will say one of the things I noticed was a pattern of you have all these different games where you got Illinois Duke, a Big Ten ACC, Iowa State, a Big Ten Big 12, Baylor-SMU, Big 12 ACC, Oklahoma State and Oregon, Big 12, Big 10. Like you have all these cross-conference, out-of-conference games that are like actually decent games where, you have Ole Miss and Kentucky, you have some other ones, but like you've got a lot of like Kansas, Missouri, an old Big 12 throwback or Big 8 throwback even. But it's a Big 12 a SEC game. And so there's that stuff that I'm excited about because Michigan playing Oklahoma and all these matchups shows that even beyond that week 0, week 1 type stuff, there are still some schools who are willing to go on the road, play a team in another major conference, and take a risk of getting that potential early loss, but being willing to do it because it's good for your program, it's good for your team, it's good for the fans and everything else. And I'm excited to see that. I like seeing that. I hopefully as we move forward with the 12-team playoff and like the 9-game SEC schedule and maybe some of the other conferences following suit in that arena, that we'll get to see more of this, more of these like ACC Big 12 Challenge, NCAA basketball type stuff going on in college football, because it's a lot of fun and it gives us a lot more of an understanding of what the quality of these teams actually is. There's been so much time where like you don't ever know because all a team does is play patsies and their conference schedule. And so you have no idea how good they actually are outside of their conference. This gives us a little taste of that so that we can start to see, and it's good for the teams. They get to see who they are outside of their conference. Because most of these schools, let's face it, you build your program to be able to compete with the best teams in your conference. So they start looking a lot alike, right? And this way you get to see some of those cross-conference clashes and how those styles kind of mesh or clash against each other. And it's fun. That's what I take away from this week is it's a lot of fun to watch how those things match up.
It absolutely is. When you actually check out the slate, there's a lot of great games. And like I said before, we can't say it enough. We appreciate everybody for showing support and talking shit. We love it all just the same. This has been the South End Zone. He's Chad. I am Tyler. We're out.
Ladies and gentlemen. Our intent was to come eat and be hungry.
We're taking receipts, and we'll see you at the national championship.